Hello, everyone.
Hello. You go ahead, Jeff. I'll be right
Oh, yeah, now, how's everyone doing tonight? We are Tell Us About Yourself with our featured guest, the Grim Librarian himself, Ken Fouché. Dustin is setting up something to keep track of people who want to enter in the raffle on the discussion group because Streamlabs is under maintenance at the moment. But anyway, thank you for joining us, Ken. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
That's
Glad I could fill in.
yeah. I mean, you're more than filling in. I see. I hear about Harry all the time, so it's good to hear someone I don't hear all this stuff about. I mean, like if you ever get trapped in a room with Harry, you're gonna hear a lot about Harry. Um, so I know Dustin usually does his opening spiel, but he's a little bit distracted now. But we do have
away.
the standard question that pops up for every show, so we might as well do that one first. Pineapple or sheep?
Oh, well, I got to go shoot, man. I'm a Kentucky boy.
I don't know if that sounded the way it's supposed to sound.
Sorry, I'm a Tennessee boy. How's that?
Yeah. All right. So how are you going on that setting up, Dustin?
I am pretty good. It's fixing to post any second now. Sorry about the delay.
Oh, it's okay. All right, Ken. Why don't you give us a rundown of how you got into the game?
Okay. Well, it was pretty simple. Probably not that much different than a lot of people. I started playing it at Gen Con last year, the last real Gen Con.
Okay.
And I had walked by the booth a couple of years in a row and they kind of looked over and thought it might be interesting. But this time, uh, the law caught my eye and said, "Hey, come try a demo." And I said, "Sure, I'll be happy to come try a demo." And his enthusiasm was infectious, and it seemed like people were having a lot of fun. So I bought a lot of stuff the first day and came back the second day, and almost immediately, even though he probably had no idea who I was, he pointed me out and said, "Hey, look, you're back." That was cool. So I went and bought some more stuff and ran into Gary Wynn, who spent about 45 minutes telling me all about um, Bastet and Rager and how the mortician was not part of the coven until everybody insisted that he was. So he incorporated him in, and so and he seemed very enthusiastic as well. And as I was listening to him, he said, "Well, why don't you come play in the big tournament tonight?" And I said, "Well, I've already got another event." And he said, "You don't want to go to that. If you'll come to my tournament, come to this tournament, which was the big tournament, the big singles tournament,
Mhm.
I'll give you one of my competitors." All right, that's $315. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I went back to my room and cobbled the. Oh, sorry, should step back. He even just grabbed a couple of generic tickets and gave them to me, so I didn't even have to pay to get in.
Oh.
So, so I went back to my room and cobbled together probably the worst deck in the history of Super Show, and then showed up and found him and said, "Here, look at my deck." And he looked at it and told me a couple of cards to switch out real quick. But almost immediately I could tell there was a different vibe because there were people around who were like, "Oh, can I help him? Is there anything in my binder I can give him?" It's like, "Well, that's different. That is." I played Magic 25 years ago when it was still a new game, and no one would have ever done that, in Magic. So then they got ready to start the tournament, and they went to call and response, and I had never heard the one fall shout before, and
Okay.
everybody around me shouted one fall just as loud as they could, and I looked around and said, "Huh, I just joined a cult. It's a pretty cool cult."
It's
Um,
fair.
and and then one of the other people walked up to me and said, "If anybody ever gives you a hard time, we don't allow that kind of stuff around here. You tell us, and we'll take care of it." So, well, all right, no one's giving me a hard time, but that's pretty cool. And then my very first match was against Plus One P on his way to the championship, and that was a beatdown. I didn't understand at the time how bad a beatdown it was, but it was a beatdown. However, he was very kind about it, and when I made mistakes, he corrected me, and we went on. My next match was against Eddie Fury in full wig, and that was a fun match too. And Eddie was very kind to a new player, and even acted scared when I played Schoolboy for the first time. Um, Against him. So that's a good card, and acted like he wasn't about to kick out of that really easily. And so I went 0-3, but came out of it thinking, wow, this was a lot of fun. So I thought, well, so I went back the next day and bought some more stuff, and then then started playing from there. I ran it, found out that I lived fairly close to the KSW guys, and then fell in with Dustin, and he and I started playing pretty regularly, and I guess the rest is history.
So I'm going to ask a question for that. So what is the event that you gave up for Super Show?
It was actually a Firefly, the board game.
Okay.
And it was funny because I was waiting in line. We were doing bullet rounds, and I was waiting in line, and somebody had evidently heard that Gary was telling anybody that would listen that I'd given up a Firefly game for that. And somebody walked up behind me, and I don't remember who it was, and said, "Aren't you glad you aren't playing Firefly right now?" And the answer was, "Yeah."
Oh, that's cool. Right. So Dustin, I was cutting you off. So
You're good. I've just been sorry about that. I've been having to keep up with numbers and everything. But Ken, I've watched you in the past year, and we've played a whole lot. Like you were saying when you came in at Gen Con, and you realized you were close to us, which we live not even 20 minutes away from you. Did you first contact Keith? Because I remember going to Keith Strader's house,
Yeah,
and
that was the first time I'd played anybody outside of the convention. Was that day at Keith's house, and he was kind enough to invite me over to his house, and we played with you, and then Betty and Angelina got in, and it was a free for all. That was my first of what I found out was going to be many triple threat matches. I played a whole lot of triple threat with Dustin and Betty over the years, over the year, I guess, and so yeah, it was cool. And that was when I realized that the generosity of this community wasn't just a one time thing. Because I walked into Keith's house and started talking to him, and said something about. He said, "Oh, have you seen Haltane?" It's like, "Oh, Haltane, what's that?" And he said, "Oh, that's Chris Jericho's Paladin character he made." Oh, I said, "Well, that's really cool." He said, "Well, here, I got an extra one. Just take it." And that was the second time in a month that someone had just given me something like that. And Dustin found out I didn't have a bunch of the C1 stop ones, so immediately drug out his binder and gave me two sets of all of those. And I said, "Well, I've already got one of each of those." And he said, "Well, you're going to need more." And boy, was he right. But
and that's the thing that I think when you were first coming in, they were so hard to get used to. They would come, and what we're talking about, folks, is the 19 through 21. If you have another grapple, strike, or sub in play, stop any. And I know now, a lot of times the box sets come out with if your opponent has two others. So I had a lot of them, and that's what he's mentioning about the 19 and 21s, the extra stops. But yeah, those dearly, we all need those. And also, coming from that start, I've watched you. You've had I think your first event actually, other than Gen Con, I think after that was Plaid Saturday last year.
yeah, that was the first organized event that I've been to since then. I went 5-1 in bullet rounds, and promptly lost in the first round of the top cut. But I was pretty proud of that 5-1. I beat a whole bunch of much better players than me on that day. And then the one loss was a 4-card drubbing from Austin Pogue. When you're sitting across from King Pink and he gets all the die rolls, there's not much chance of winning that match.
And if I ain't mistaken, was he Amazing Red or was he himself?
No, he was playing himself in that because he was playing Amazing Red for the championship later on that day. So
Okay.
he was running himself, but since he didn't have to stop anything I played, so it didn't really matter.
The reason I asked that is I know a lot of times if you're winning turn rows, and I remember going against his Mason Red, and he's either winning turn rows or he's drawing constantly, rolling that 5, and I'm like, damn it, you're already out of a deck. But when you first came in, if I ain't mistaken, your favorite was your first competitor El Super Hombre.
No, actually, although he was an early favorite, and I've still got a variation of my Super Hombre deck just waiting to play. In fact, I'm playing him in the Mask Up tournament next Sunday. But my first competitor was Robert Torn, because when I was looking through the competitors I bought at that point most of the box sets that were out at that in that Gen Con tournament, and then 8 or 10 other competitors. And I looked at Robert Torn and it said, well, they can't make your cards go away. This seems like a really good thing for someone that doesn't know what they're doing. And no one tried to make me discard in 3 matches. It was like, well, that was useless.
And I mean, me and you, we had a blast on that Louisville trip too. I know we ate, real early before going up there.
Sorry, dude. I'm the old man. You're supposed to have a better memory, but that was the Matt Stevens tournament that we did that with.
Oh, okay. See, it all like in between that time, it all jumbles together for me. I'm sorry, but I remember you going 5-1, and man, I was more proud of you than I was myself.
Well, that Matt Stevens. I made the top cut and then promptly got knocked out in the first round. In fact, for the first year of my play, that was kind of my jam. I'll do real good in the bullet rounds, and then can't get past the first round of top cuts.
My kryptonite is always top 4, top 8.
Yeah, I would kill to get there on a regular basis.
All right. So first, I want to cut in and thank Ed for his subscription. But we do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
We're going to go with Young Allergy's question, which is, what is the Grim Librarian holding in his character called? A rolled up map? A wooden dowel? A steel rod? He wants to know.
It might be more than one of those things. The original plan for that was a blueprint. I don't know if you've noticed from the interview thus far, but Dustin and I are pretty good buddies, and he really wanted my character to kind of tie into his backstory. So, the Grim Librarian is actually his long-lost brother, who found him and then got a job in the prison library to break him out. And that is the blueprint for the prison. Now, whether or not I have an iron rod rolled up in there...
Seems fair. All right. The big guy has a question. So, with the new releases this past week, who do you like the most, or who will you play first?
Of the new releases, I really like Tyler, and I really like John Constance. Now, that is not, that is no knock on anybody else's. But I like the idea of kind of reframing the playing field that John Constance does. Mm-hmm. And I like playing around with turn rolls, so a discard that also gives me a bonus to a turn roll seems like a pretty cool deal. Yeah. So those are the ones that I like. I don't actually like a whole lot of discard decks. There's something, and I realize it's a game, but there's something kind of perverse about taking someone's hand away from them in a card game. Yeah. So, and I realize that there's perhaps some hypocrisy there, saying that when I really like El Super Hombre, but there's only 8 cards. You can play Super Hombre without playing a total discard deck.
There. All right. We have another question. Was the inspiration behind the Grim Librarian at all rooted in the movie/TV show Librarians by Dean Devlin?
No. It's basically I work in a library, and so he is a little bit of my alter ego if I were younger and in better shape. But no, there's not any real world pop cultural analog other than just kind of a general amalgam of things that I like. And I was trying really hard to tie into Dustin's story, and I couldn't figure out. I certainly didn't want to play a prison guard, but I happen to know as a librarian that a lot of prisons have librarians that obtain materials for people. And so that seemed like a good fit.
Yeah. So, generally, Wong would like to know, does your back still hurt from carrying him through the tag team tournament Saturday?
Okay. Well, that is a bunch of BS. If anything, it was the other way around, and who carried me. Although I felt like we played really well together, despite not getting together ahead of time and putting together decks. I had a deck, and he brought out one of his regular tag decks. Didn't even have any tag cards in it, and it worked out just fine. I felt like that was, and I know the brain will make a big deal about having his team had lost the least number of matches, but I will point out that we avenged every loss that we had. So by the end of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's who wins at the end, not who has the least number of losses.
That's how I felt about it.
uh, let's see. Hold the Line Harry did ask a little while back if you've talked about the Freak Show yet, because apparently you kicked his butt with him. So.
Well, actually, I played in that trios match about 2 weeks ago. I've actually had some decent success the last month since I started playing online, but more than I would have expected, really. But I kind of threw together a Freak Show trio just to play in that tournament kind of last minute, and had a really good run. I lost. I won the first match and then lost, and had to make a really strong run through the losers bracket, or as Uberstar said, the second chance bracket. And what I found was that I thought the part of the Freak Show gimmick that I didn't think was going to come up that much, the draw extra cards part, came up a lot. And I think I hit like 5 times where I got to draw 4 cards on Harry. And at one point, because I didn't think much about it, I didn't even run Director of Operations. I ran something different. And as a result, I was sitting there with every turn having to figure out what cards plural to discard. I had a good run. I ended up losing to John Eldis, who won the whole thing, and finished third. But I guess the big thing about that was, other than the Matt Stevens Memorial Tournament, when I played a single match against the Shovel Club in a challenge match, I had never played a trios match before that night, and so I felt like I did pretty damn well for not having any experience with trios.
All right. Speaking of Uberstar, his roommate, I believe, has a question to ask, unless the Uberstar is taking over the connection again. If Jeremy would like to ask his question.
I have indeed taken over. And I was very busy scheduling my matches in an upcoming tour of the Octaron Nebula, when my luchador senses heard that you were playing El Supper Hombre in a masked tournament. While you are wearing that shirt! How dare you? That is my question.
So how dare you?
Well, I'm a huge fan of you, Uberstar, but I will say that there have to be some luchadors for you to look down on, and no. What better than Super Hombre?
Fun! Because I'm a luchador, that's how that works! Oh, you see Fox over there? Hi, Fox. That's how that works! El Supper, the whole idea of a tournament of masks is a sham anyway! I am busy that day. Sean Loeb should show up and take everyone's mask. I believe that is what will happen. Sean Loeb should be acceptable to be in that tournament so he can take all the masks.
I actually wouldn't have a problem with
I would not be in the tournament.
Yeah, and we all know Rising Sun can't show up because he's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah, despite me recently kicking him in the head a couple times.
No, that did not happen. You're clearly deranged.
Sure. Repeatedly super kicking him.
That did not happen. That is my question.
All right.
Buy more shirts!
Yes, sir.
Do what I can.
All I'm going to say to that fella is he's lucky I'm not GPS today.
I don't know. Uberstar's a scary kind of guy.
GPS is fine with me. He doesn't pretend to be a luchador.
I'll let him know.
All right. So, as a calm down question from there, Candyman says, "Congratulations on your win." And then the phenomenal one, who's someone in the LFF you'd like to play in a match the most that you haven't played yet?
Oh, okay. Well, I've actually made a run against a lot of I mean, when you start with Press 1P as your first match, you're running with a high level crowd. But I have not yet played Chris Pagello, and I thought I was going to play him in the last tournament, and our wins and losses didn't quite work out where I ended up playing him. But I would like to play him. I've played the Binomial one. he beat me at the Matt Stevens Memorial. I doubt he even remembers it because it was such a quick match, but he did. But I've played a lot of high level players with middling, let's say, success, which is a nice way to say I've got a losing record.
All right. Yeah, and Bambata is saying he can't wait to play against you. So that's always good. And take it from me, I find Bambata to be an easy win
Oh.
most of the time, and he knows it.
Well, I don't know. There's people who you have their number.
Yeah.
I've had a much better record probably against Dustin even than say our relative skill levels would indicate.
You were talking about schoolboys earlier. I cannot tell you how many times this guy has hit me with schoolboy.
A few,
Oh,
fair
wow.
number.
Oh wow, Bambata's in the chat saying I'm number one a couple times. I don't know why he's using that finger though. It's weird. Weird. But yeah, thank you for saying I'm number one. Thanks, Bambata. Oh man. Big Guy's kind of upset that you didn't say the big guy.
Oh, well, I can't say everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, there's honestly, the truth be told, I want to play all kinds of people, and I want to have fun with all kinds of people. I'm not the best player. I will freely admit that. But I hope when you play me, you have a good time.
Yeah.
And anybody that wants to come and have a good time, I'm willing to play a game with. So, how's that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we definitely need a kind of an outlet for just people to have fun times and not worry about competitiveness occasionally. We haven't had that in a while. Every time it's always a tournament. But yeah.
Well, but not all tournaments are created equal.
Sure.
I would posit to you that the Fujiwara tournament, which was each one of us running a tornado tag, was not going to be a serious tournament. Now there were some serious competitor cards brought to it, but I won with Treaty of Friendship and the Sawyer Brothers with Jeff playing my partner. Those are not what most people would consider killer top tier decks, I don't think. So, you know, and I think a lot of those tournaments, like the Strange Bedfellows tournament that Stephen Owens ran several weeks ago, that one was an absolute blast, even when I was in the 3-hour three-way dance, the match that wouldn't end. But the rest of that tournament was absolutely a ball, and playing with different people was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to play with Anthony Perry for the first time, and found out he and I were really compatible partners, long enough that we played together in the next tag team tournament, the Pirate one, and decided to run the whole way and made it to the finals. Unfortunately, we ran into the buzzsaw that was
Candy Cats? I don't remember what their name was.
It was something about tostadas, but tostadas or something like that. What I know is they roasted us in 2 matches at the end because they were good. We were tired.
Yeah. Oh, that's always good. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of fun tournaments, but then, even then, you always have the competitive players that come out into them who care about wins that sometimes, put a damper on some things. But
I concur, and secretly when I see one of them get knocked out, my heart grows 2 sizes.
Oh, man. All right. So again, people, if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the Twitch chat or in the Zoom room if you'd like.
What are some things that futuristic are you looking forward to? I'm hoping next year we'll have that grand gathering because we were gonna have a blast this year.
Oh yeah, well I certainly want live play. I feel like the there's a vibe that you lose when you can't get together with everybody, and even if that everybody's 15 or 20 people as opposed to Gen Con when it's 160 or whatever. So yeah, live play definitely. I'm looking forward to. I don't have a picture or anything to spoil to you, but there is going to be a card that I commissioned to improve my deck, and I presume others. I has school in the title. I won't tell you anymore, but I'm really happy. I've seen the art. I'm really happy with the art. I hope the text because I'm pretty much leaving the rest of it up to Steve to run wild with. But I hope that it both fits the theme of the Grim Librarian deck and is useful to other people. I don't think he'll let me down. He hasn't yet. And I'm looking forward to more tournaments. Honestly, like maybe not like the Fujiwara. That was an experience that I really enjoyed, but I don't know that I could do that regularly without scratching my head, because some of those matches were pretty long. But interesting little fun tournaments like that. I honestly think Mark Salty Sailor a while back said, what if we had a tournament, and I think this was supposed to be at Grand Gathering 2, what if we had a tournament where everybody played their competitor? And I think that might be a lot of fun.
I don't know. As long as I don't have to face you, I already seen how that matches up for me.
Oh, come on. Happened one time. You know the next time we'll end up that way. If you recall the first time we played, you smoked me.
Well, no, it happens. So the big guy would like to know what your favorite 10 stat is.
Oh, well, power 10, which makes no sense because I got no guns. But for some reason I like that. Because, honestly, I think probably because I like 7 seals a lot, and so it gives me a good opportunity to run 7 seals. There's something about that particular card that makes me happy. It's a stop and you get a card back. That seems like the perfect combination.
Yeah, no, they are definitely awesome cards. All right, Generally Wong would like to know what your favorite stipulation to play, if you had to choose.
Honest to God, if I was going to pick a stipulation, it would be play pure, because every time I end up in a stipulation, it seems like it somehow works against my deck. And I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of deck I've got. I'll have a very, very different deck, and the stipulation is, oh, well, Ken's cards all go in the discard pile as soon as he draws them. So how did this happen? But no, I haven't done a lot of stip play, and as a result, I'm not very savvy in that, which is a considerable reason for why I do really well in the bullet rounds and then maybe don't do so hot when I get to the top cut, because I don't have that sort of background in the game, and as a result, frequently I don't know quite how to work around the limitations.
That's fair. All right. So we have another question from Vo Pilot Dash. What do you think of the Joseph Ritchie competitor?
Okay. I think that is, of course, I haven't seen the finishers, so that may make a difference. I know some people were talking about that are way more knowledgeable about the game than I before we started this. I think that the competitor itself is very powerful and looks like it would be very fun to play because of the randomness of it. I'd like to see the finishers first before I pass any sort of judgment. Because I could easily see the finishers having no stat bonuses and just be pick up cards or shuffle your hand back in or something like that.
Of course, it also has the advantage of being able to play any generic finisher at once because of the
and any stop. Honestly, I was watching the repeated super kick, whatever your card was, debate yesterday, and lamenting that Super Hombre, there was finally a super card in a different slot, and Super Hombre couldn't run it.
Yeah, intentional.
But I felt very strongly. You made the perfect point. Chris Adams had the best super kick, and he couldn't run it. So if he can't, who cares about young?
Yeah, so many people don't even know who Chris Adams is, which is the sad part.
And that is a pity.
Yeah,
it is a pity.
Yeah. So, Young Allergy would like to know, did you pick Grim Librarian's skill line? If so, is there a certain reason you wanted some skills higher than the others?
I did pick his skill line, and honestly, I went through and looked at other people's skill lines and matched it up to Matt Stevens, even though I had never played Matt Stevens. Mostly because I liked the idea of having a 10 power where I could run 7 seals and then a good second 13, 14, 15 stop. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I ran it. And I was also specifically looking for people with technique of 8 to mimic, because if you can't come up with something original, mimic someone good. And I was looking because I knew that my gimmick, and I actually came up with my gimmick almost the way it came out. But I wanted my gimmick to be the 8, so I was looking for people with a technique of 8 that also had a power 10, and he fit the bill.
Yeah, and it's a good competitive mimic too. Good stat line. All right. Dustin, you have any other questions while people post stuff up?
I was just going to say real quick, we only have one more number open, folks, and that is 25
Oh
on
no.
our post.
Oh.
I was gonna say, I know originally, me and you were working with your competitor and stuff. You really liked the Shane Strickland character, and you were kind of, I think, at first wanting something similar to it.
Actually, yeah, the very first gimmick I came up with was what is now in Mastermind, which was the exact opposite gimmick, kind of a mirror gimmick, of Shane Strickland, which is on a bump your opponent goes -2 instead of on a bump you go +2, and I liked that. Um, I liked how that played with the turn rolls without being too overpowering. I liked several of his cards. Um, and then just when it was about time to start thinking about that, out came Mastermind, and so then I had to punt. So, but that doesn't hurt me because now I can play my character and Mastermind.
Big Guy just pointed out that if Grim matches Matt Stevens' stat line, that it matches the Big Guy stat line too, because he matched Matt Stevens as well.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll remember that for future tag matches.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll make a good tornado team as long as you want Kendo Slice in your hand at all times. Maybe that's what's hidden inside that blueprint.
I can live with that.
Man.
All right, folks. Just to add, our post is now complete. We have 1 through 30. We'll be doing a raffle here soon after this episode.
All right.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
But now going through, the process of your competitor and everything, did everything turn out to be, exactly like you liked, or even better?
Well, it didn't turn out exactly like I expected. And at least part of that's on me because when they sent me the proof, I misread my competitor. Originally, my gimmick idea was when you roll technique, you may choose any opponent to re-roll, as opposed to you will choose any opponent to re-roll. And so that made it different, but I kind of like it. It makes it for a very different set of decision making processes, but it's not bad. And I felt like they changed 2 of my 3 finishers. One they made a little weaker, but I understood. In fact, I expected that. It was sort of like when South Park put 742 curse words in Bigger, Longer, Uncut, so that when they cut 400 of them, they'd still have 300 in. Well, I made one of them a little more powerful than I thought I would get away with, and when they cut that, they left the rest of it pretty much alone. So I was happy with that. But then they also made Close the Book a little more powerful because it went from just if schoolboy's in your discard pile, you can take it to your hand, to any card with school in it, with assurances that there were future school cards on the horizon. And of course, I run Kicking It Old School in there for that very reason now.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the 11 slot, which is a slot where it's always hard to find something good to put in anyway. So at least now I've got a good reason to run a specific card there. And they said future school cards are coming, and I know there's at least one coming because I paid for it in the steel cage set. So hopefully, I've heard that's coming out fairly by the end of January. So hopefully that'll be in my deck soon.
That's cool. All right.
Do we have any questions in our Twitch yet?
We do not at the moment.
Okay. Also, me and you were talking, and which I appreciate you. Your character is, joined in with the Devil's Rejects and stuff. I look forward to what we could do to work with that. I know I've mentioned before what to do tornadoes and trios. I'm really looking forward to adding you to it, man. just watching you play and everything, it's been really awesome. And you joining in when you did really helped me keep playing, on a regular basis. Um, Looking forward and everything, I think us playing local, if we can start that soon, hopefully, after all this mess, I would like to get back to that because there's nothing like playing face to face.
Oh, I agree. Although I will say that, and I feel like we all want to play face to face, but that's really selling the online experience short because I would not have gotten to play against so many people if we didn't have. I mean, other than maybe once or twice a year, and I'm playing people every weekend. That I would not be playing ordinarily as a result of the local or the online scene, and so that's something that maybe we don't respect enough. That there are people who are working really hard to put on tournaments, and Jeff has been behind the scenes on several of those tournaments. So thanks to you, sir. But I feel like there's in a lot of people aren't giving unless the boss is running it, they aren't really giving it much thought to the weekend tournaments. But that's a really good place to get better. It's a really good place if you to try a new deck out. It's a really good place to play people that you don't ordinarily get to play. And so while I really want to get back and play in person because it's so much nicer to be able to see the reaction on Dustin's face when I've hit him with a schoolboy instead of just watching his fist clench up whenever we're on the play mat. It's there's something to be said for being able to play online where people can do things as well.
And I've enjoyed it too. One thing you were mentioning earlier is, we were talking about, I think past couple of episodes we've been talking, with Chegonomics and stuff, these tournaments that you don't really hear much about. One of them you mentioned earlier I really liked was that, was it the D-lister, if I ain't
Oh yeah,
mistaken? It
yeah.
was one. That one I really loved because it also, it brought out more characters that we, like I said before, that we don't see played a whole lot more, as much as we should. I mean, there's a lot of competitors that you just don't think of much anymore, and they're just, not as used. So I like these different tournaments, kind of like submission match, having strike matches or grapples. What are some things you would like to see?
Honestly, I really liked the D-lister tournament, and I played Vanilla Gorilla in it. I'm sure the Ohio people will hate that, but I like Vanilla Gorilla. I don't feel like he's overpowered. Obviously, other people don't either because he was on the D list. But he was a ton of fun to play in that. But I actually think that would be a really good idea to have kind of a constructed tournament where maybe a draft where the draft pool is 36 competitors that nobody sees played. Kirk mentioned something about, well, you don't really see anybody play D3 very often. Well, all right, so throw D3 in there, and good competitors. Not Don't put a competitor in there that's so specifically terrible that no one would want to play it. Oh, I got stuck with
Mortician.
Yeah. Well, Bobby Rowe.
Yeah, I know.
So,
well, yeah, I mean that's the one argument with that is like if someone can do top 4, top 3 with a mortician, then like is there really a bad competitor in the game? I mean,
yes, there is, and his name is GPS. No.
I mean, GPS is like a weak version of Mac McPeak.
Yeah.
So
Well, but I mean, I'm sure you could find, or hell, just do a tournament with the last 3 releases, like the last 3 batches of releases, where they're going to do a 24-man tournament, and only those competitors that have been released in the last 3 months are available. I think that would be a good fun tournament. I'm sure whoever got Theo the Greek Neo would win, but everybody else would have a lot of fun.
Kind of like which you mentioned on here, but you also mentioned to me before, is having that tournament where everybody plays as their character. That's one reason why I do those. Like I said all the time, I do those challenges because I love seeing people in their characters and stuff, and it makes it more realistic, I guess you can say.
yeah. All right. So the Babada fishing for probably help trying to make a competitor. Ken, I want to know: do you have any gimmicks, thoughts of for a possible future competitor? I mean, he might steal it if you say it though, so you gotta watch
Yeah, I
out.
understand. I would not reveal my secrets because someone's already stolen my first secret from me. Like that was some sort of revolutionary. Well, I'm just going to take that and flip it. But no, I honestly I spent a lot of time waiting for Grim Librarian to come out. And by the way, I'm going to go on make a public service announcement. I frequently refer to my competitor just by the name of Grim. It is my effort to try to reclaim that name from the dustbin because everybody hates the original Grim. So if you want to call my character Grim, it will make me happy, and perhaps it will make the community happy too. Now, PSA over. I have not really given a lot of thought to other gimmicks yet, mostly because I'm currently now trying to concentrate on making a better deck for my own competitor. And, give me 6 months about that, then I'll start thinking about other things. I have not really put a lot of thought into that. The competitors are coming out so quickly that it's hard to keep up with playing all the new ones that come out. But and I feel like there's different levels to the cult that I mentioned before, and one of the levels that really puts you into the family, so to speak, is having your own competitor, and I've done that now. So I feel like there's the next thing to do is to get Grim into fighting shape where he can be and I'm a decent competitor. Now I will say I did design Grim specifically for tag play. I wanted him to be stronger in tag than singles, so he may never be huge on the singles scene, and I'm okay with that. But I do. I've gotten to play him since release in one tag match, and he did exactly what I wanted him to do, and I was so happy. And I'm hoping that the Lords of Madness, Grim Librarian, and Devil's Reject QPS do some damage in this upcoming LFF tournament. I don't necessarily want to be the number one contenders at the end of it. I'm not sure that we're necessarily championship material, but I would like to see us wreck some folks before we get knocked out.
Young Allergy would like to ask if you are thinking of an alt finisher called the Dewey Decimal Drop.
No, because Dewey Decimal is high school libraries. I'm a college librarian. Thank you very much. We use the Library of Congress system.
Yeah. He's a rapper. He doesn't know anything past high school.
I understand. That's the alliteration of it. Huh?
Yeah. It has a flow. That's all that matters to him. He said there's a lot of young competitors you can use that move on.
That's true. We have for an underground fighting federation, we have a suspiciously large number of minors wrestling in it.
I mean, you don't need to check IDs in an illegal underground wrestling promotion, so.
Yeah, that's true. But I would think you would think there would be some sort of reaction to beating up kids.
I don't. I think this community won't react bad at all if someone beats up a kid. Never. Okay. I don't think you'll ever see anyone hate for beating a kid.
Well, thus far, my experience is when I'm playing a kid, they beat me up.
Yeah.
So,
that's fair too. Yeah, that's a practice I pointed out that because the kid usually goes over. Yeah. And the Reverend likes to point out that he does believe in beating other people's children. So. All right, so we got about 10 minutes left in this program, so if people have any other final questions. Big Eye does have a question, and it is whether or not you're trying to get yourself a title shot by taking on J-Flash in the 100-meter.
I am old and slow. So I will not be trying to take that over because I also don't want to die of a heart attack. I think I don't, although that does speak to be a little more serious, I'm not looking for title shots necessarily at any level. I realize that there is a certain level of public presence in that, and that is not necessarily me. I like playing the game. I don't. I'm not really the sort of person that's going to do cut a whole lot of promos. I'm kind of the anti-grump, in that
You're
I'm
happy.
not an introvert, but I'm not going to be
Yeah.
filming myself in costume a whole lot. So I just like to play, and which is why the tournament scene, even the weird tournaments, suits me, because on any given night I can do well in one of those, and then say at the end, "Hey, look what I did," as opposed to having to have all of the weight of a title. So
Yeah.
I answered your question.
Oh yeah, and I was actually thinking of doing the 100-meter too, but I live in America and we don't believe in meters, so I'm not going to get that fictional fantasy world measurement and even bother with it. This is America. We use yards and feet and other archaic views of memory. I'd rather do stones for weight than like grams and kilograms and nonsense.
I would go for it, but all I'm gonna say is watching Ric Flair and everything. If somebody gets tripped, I didn't do it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. You have a couple final questions, Dustin?
I'm out of questions.
The Uber star says he wants to do the 100-meter, but he has to get a camera crew to do it. Which, I mean, the thing is, though, you have to figure out which planet the Uber star is doing it on, because, you know, like, different effects of gravity and polarity and all that, like, really, I don't know, smart people know. Like, but that probably can affect the time of running. I don't know. Uber star. I don't trust him. As long as he doesn't hear me say that.
Hey.
I know, he's been watching me this whole time.
Me, I'm a fan of Uber Star.
Yeah, well, I'd be a fan if he played his roommate Brent.
Well,
So.
I understand, but you know, there's a whole lot of people who are famous for being famous that aren't really all that great people. I don't see why Uber Star's kind of running in fast company there.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. He is a decent apparel company. Alright, so, people on Twitch have any final questions? Cool. See that. Or in the Zoom. Because people can still ask questions in Zoom. We haven't covered Canoli's question, because he hasn't been here, of your 3 favorite wrestlers of all time.
Okay, I'm going to cheat on this one and give you 4.
Okay. I'm pretty sure usually he does 3 male, 3 female, too, but...
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay, well, that would actually take care of it then, but my 3 favorites, and I'm older, so unfortunately for this question, I guess, I grew up in the 70s and 80s were my wrestling idols. So, and 2 of them had bad ends, so don't judge me, or judge me, I don't care. But my number one, because I grew up watching Memphis wrestling on the Louisville channels. So my number one is not Jerry Lawler, it's Bill Superstar Dundee.
Okay.
He spent most of his career opposing Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, Dundee is amazing.
Yes, but Dundee was one of my all-time favorites, and he was short and I was short, and so that was he was the man for me.
And I think he's still wrestling too.
He is actually. They showed I saw a video footage of a tag match, he and Lawler against 2 masked wrestlers that looked like they were doing it outside the Memphis Coliseum right before it was being imploded. Like the last match at the Coliseum, and he was in his 70s at that point and was still out wrestling those guys. So that's number one. Number 2 has already been mentioned tonight, but as cable became more prolific, I became a huge fan of Chris Adams. And Dundee had given me a healthy respect for liking the bad guys, so it wasn't really hard to like the people who were opposing the Von Erichs. And that put you in really good company, because you had him, and you had early Cactus Jack, and you had Loser Brody frequently. You know, so those were some really cool people to root for them. But my favorite was Chris Adams, especially during the Gino Hernandez tag team days. They were a hell of a tag team. And number 3, going back to my Memphis roots, is Bobby Eaton. through all of his iterations. When he, which by the way, I guess is almost, I mean, because he married Bill Dundee's daughter, but so kind of keep it into the family there. But Bobby Eaton did things that nobody else was doing. I mean, at one point he decided to wrestle an entire match on his knees just because he could. You know, those, and he made everybody look good, and was also, as I found out later, years later, one of the nicest guys in the business. Everybody liked Bobby Eaton, which is a cool thing to be. I really, you know, I'd love to be the guy that everybody likes, and the fact that he was really, really good kind of made it. The fourth one I was going to say is unfortunately second tragedy there, because I was a huge Chris Benoit fan, and yet another short guy that whose work rate was better than anybody else's. And unfortunately, when the tragedy with his wife and son happened, that kind of put me off of wrestling pretty much right up until I played Super Show the first match. I didn't watch more than 10 minutes of wrestling for almost a decade after that, because it was just too hard to bring myself to come back to it after you put a lot of effort into loving a guy's career only for it to end so tragically. But if you want to be the answer, women's wrestling, I got to tell you, since I started watching wrestling again, it's hard to beat Tessa Blanchard. I realize that she may not have the best personality, but she shows up in the ring and outworks whoever she's working with. And back in the day, I was a real fan of Molly Holly. Back when there were bikini matches was the height of women's wrestling. You had a real wrestler doing real moves and making all the rest of them look better than they had probably any right to.
Yeah.
So that's my list. I hope Perry's happy.
I'm sure he will be when he rewatches it. All right. I don't see any final questions, so we probably should move on to the raffle then, which we have some controversy in the forums over it, because apparently you gave the number 25 spot to someone who didn't, to someone who said it after the first person who said it, because Jeremy Steigerwall asked for number 25 like 47 minutes ago, like right after it got posted, and you gave it to Evie Fresh.
Well, tell you what, do this then. I've got make a second raffle. Do one with Evie and then one with Jeremy in the 25 slot, and I'll put up a brain foil set for the second one. How's that?
Okay.
All right. Well, I mean, then we would kind of need to know which one Jeremy wants to be in. Well, I mean, he went into the snap kick one, so yeah. So if you want to do that,
I'll fix that up real quick. I am sorry about that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things that happens, and the irony, of course, being is Streamlabs has now came back online.
Oh, good, just in time for the dojo.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure the Crime Wave paid them off. And they don't tell the big guy these things though, because he's the guy, the nice guy in the Crime Wave that covers for all their bad antics. We all know this.
What's the Crime Wave got against me?
I don't know, man. Like, I'm sure they'll. I mean, like, I don't know. Have you ever been in the dojo and thrown the boss through a table? I know he dislikes that. I
have only played the dojo one time, and it was against Loudmouth Leo, and it was a crowd meter 3 barn burner that unfortunately Grim Librarian lost. It was one of the very first times I got to play.
Oh. Oh yeah, but Loudmouth's always a fun play when lose or draw. Unlike that Schmidt guy. He's good for free cards, and that's about it.
Well, that's nice.
I mean, it's true, unfortunately. But hey, people are waiting for his competitor, though. All right. So you want to do your raffles, Dustin?
Yes, we can.
Since we have that camera.
1 through 30. You may just do it with like a deck. Or...
I mean, that's probably the easiest, unless you got a 30-sided die.
Yeah. Give me 1 second,
I mean,
okay?
I'm sure there's quite a few people who have 30-sided dies.
I do.
I mean, I do somewhere. I don't really ever use them, so I don't know
I'll
where I
be
have
I'll be right back. Okay.
it. Okay, sure. We have time.
Uh,
Of course, I didn't know he was going to... Why do we have another camera? People messing up the cuts. Alright, oh yeah, he turned his camera off. Alright. Messing up my cuts, man. Messing up my cuts. Oh, no, Mike is saying he has a 20-sided die, not 30. Nope, there's 30-sided dies. They are, like, this big. They're big.
sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm back.
Yep. Alright, there we go. But, yep. See, this is why you should have a 30-sided die. It makes things easier. You just roll a 30-sided die.
Well, since we have the Grim Librarian and he
Yep.
has joined the Devil's Rejects, I might as well use my GPS deck.
Yep, and practice, I was saying he had a 30-sided die on his play table, too.
I'm sure it would roll 25 at least once.
Yeah.
too.
I mean, it depends on whether Uberstar's around to... Knowing him, he would probably throw it into a window or something. He would defenestrate the die because it didn't roll a 25.
So we are doing 3 now, if I ain't mistaken.
Yes, you're doing the snap kick one, the non-foil set of Phantasm, and then Ken is donating a foil brain set.
Alrighty.
No, Nico, you don't use a percentile die for a 30-sided and re-roll everything over a 30. That's insanity.
I'm going to friendly cut.
Who are you choosing?
And
How do you choose to cut?
I don't know. I'm used to doing it online, so my bad. So the first one I flip is number 10.
Alright, and so and that would be for the foil snap kick, which would be going to the General Lee Wong.
Jeff McPeak.
Ooh, you know, and that's really what he wanted was a foil, because he loves foils. Yeah.
And next I have a alternate art Phantasm.
Alright.
And I will take the 10 out.
Yep.
And it also comes with the set, just so y'all know. It's the full set.
Will he do another cut?
No. I'm so used to doing that whole lot of that. Ugh. And for the Phantasm is number 29.
Oh.
That
would
is
be
Evan Harris.
Young Allergy. Ooh.
So I'll take my lovely Finnish foiled grapple out. Number 29. Evan Harris.
I mean, and both of the people who won are people watching the show, so that's always positive, and not just the people that got in and care nothing about the show, so that's always good. Let's see who's going to get the brain.
And it is number 17. And that is Michael Kurt.
All right, that's cool. So Michael Kurt gets the foil brain. It's awesome. Who, if people don't know, is the host of the Outlaw Mudcast, the #1 show on my Spotify. It's the only podcast I listen to.
Ooh, for that matter.
Yeah. It's a very good
Alrighty,
podcast.
so I'll need Evan Harris's and
McPeak.
yes,
And,
Jeff McPeak's addresses.
Yep, and Michael Kirk needs to contact Ken.
Yep.
So, all right. So, do we have any clue who's our guest for next week?
Yes, and I am very excited to mention this. Next week is not only, it's 27th, but it's getting close to Halloween. So, being a very big Halloween fan as I am, I'll actually dress in character for this show, and my guest next week is going to be Mr. Giggles, Joshua Bryant.
Cool.
And not only is he going to be a guest that day, his Kickstarter actually launches that day, which is going to be Crimson Woods, a horror game that he's made. It's supposed to launch that day also, and we'll be in discussion, and we can talk about that as well as that's launching. But that should be on site that day, from my understanding. So my question is, will he be Mr. Giggles or will he be Peppy Peppa? Who knows?
Yep. All right, so that'll be awesome. And by the way, the foil snap kick Jeff McPeak won. He wants us to let people know that he will pay it forward to the first person who plays for him on the dojo, not playing for his own competitor. So he will. So you might get a different person asking you for that foil, Dustin.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm pretty sure he wants a blindside suplex. So if someone give him a blindside suplex to get it, I'm pretty sure he wants to kill me now. But all right, folks. Well, that's the show for this week. Thank you, Grim, for being on the show. The good Grim. See, we called you
The
Grim.
better Grim.
The better Grim. The bestest Grim. It was great having you on here. And if you have any final words, Dustin, we will go off the air.
Man, like I said earlier, I've watched you become a big player this past year, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. When we're at tournaments together, I am there more cheered for you more than I am myself.
Back at you, buddy.
Watched, we've we've came a long way of playing this past year, and I can't wait till we can see each other in person again and work on that little local play that we had.
Me too, bud. Me too.
But stay safe, and man, it was a pleasure having you.
Glad I could be here. Thanks so much.
All right, and we will see you all next week.
And we'll see you later.
Yep.